So, good afternoon. We have today with us Stephen Ajayi, who is the co founder of ScoutFor. And we're going to find out what ScoutFor is. So, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So, Stephen, it's a pleasure, first of all, to meet you. And I look forward to find out about your company, ScoutFor. Can you tell us how you came up with the idea?
Yeah, so it's an interesting story. I was actually studying pre-med in college
Yeah.
after not being sure what I wanted to do. And
Yeah.
so I decided to was watching my older brother go through the process of trying to find his first job
Yeah.
in architecture.
Yeah.
He graduated from U of O, and he had been outside of his profession, mostly because the economy had been so bad. And so when it rebounded, he is working somewhere else, but he wanted to then get into his actual field.
Okay.
And so at the time, you were getting like 500 applications for one job. And
Wow.
so
What, that was in like 10 years ago?
this was around 2012, I want to say,
Yeah,
2013.
it was starting to go
It was
back
starting
up.
to recover, but
Okay.
you just
It
kind of
was
start
tough.
building.
It was
Like,
tough
yeah, whenever the construction and everything stops, it's really hard to get into
to find.
architecture. Yeah,
Now it's booming.
exactly. So now he's fine. But just watching him just filling out all the applications and trying to find work, it just was an interesting process. Just observe as a
Yeah.
third party,
Yeah.
and I just felt like that process should be better.
I agree. I agree.
Exactly. So that's kind of where the initial idea for it started, and then I decided to talk to my,
Simplify the
exactly,
process.
and
Some,
then that's where it started.
okay, okay. Because some companies really make it hard for people to even apply.
Exactly.
Like 7 interviews. This makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Salesforce, they give multiple interviews
Sure.
to make sure you fit with all the teams,
Exactly.
and that's using people time, I think, because what if in the end you're not chosen, right?
Sure.
You agree with that?
I do agree
Yeah.
with that. I mean, I think that it is. I think there's two problems. One problem is like the actual process of people hiring and like
Yeah.
how you get into people deciding whether or not you're a good qualified candidate for the job.
Yeah.
And the other problem is how people are actually sourcing. And
Oh.
so we are primarily focused on the sourcing aspect of it, where
Oh,
we're mostly
outsource.
focused on like how do you find people that are really talented who should be given the opportunity to interview and be going through the process.
So sourcing is like a contractor
Sure. You basically
for
have
3 months, maybe.
exactly. So you basically have these situations where you are, as a company, you want to find really qualified candidates for jobs you have open.
Yeah.
And so you usually end up going to, in the Bay Area, a lot of times you see people like focus on like Stanford or Harvard or where you graduated from college.
Yeah.
We're primarily focused on where people who are already practicing within the profession recommending people that are really talented from their communities. So we're mostly focused on diversity and inclusion, so you can find more people of color, more women, people who might not have a network into those tech companies, being able to make it into the process.
Okay, so these people already have applied, but they didn't get a chance, so you kind of pushed the envelope a little bit for them?
Yeah, I think that what we were kind of observing is that you're either having people who really were applying to companies and
Yeah.
not getting any traction within the
Yeah,
company.
yeah. So you make it easier for them.
Yeah, and so that's kind of what we're focused on. It's like how you actually make sure that people who are really great candidates actually get a chance to get into the process,
Okay.
or at least get reviewed.
Okay, okay. But they don't hire directly from you. You're not a placement agency.
No.
Okay. So basically, you call a company, let's say a big corporation, they say, we can send you real good applicants,
Hmm.
and we think it will help you meet your quota goals, kind of, because they are trying to have the same objective as
Sure.
you, right?
Right.
And you come in also to screen these people, correct?
So the interesting thing about what we're doing is we actually don't screen.
Oh, you don't.
So the way the process works basically is that there are a lot of technology meetups and
Yeah.
organizations around the Bay Area, Portland, San Francisco, different cities around the United
where
States.
people meet and try to find jobs.
Exactly. And so you have this interesting situation where tech companies are looking for really qualified talent, and they're limited by the people that their people know when they're hiring, only because the best way to get into a company is by knowing someone who already works there.
Okay, and what do you do in that regard?
So we basically say there's a bunch of qualified people who are showing to meetups on a regular basis or showing up to different communities. They're organizers of those communities who are, maybe they're a Python developer by day and they work at Microsoft, or they're at Apple doing design. So who better to ask within the ecosystem of technology about who you should be working with than the people who are running those communities?
Oh,
So then what we do is we basically have a platform that allows meetup organizers and organizers of tech groups to make referrals of applicants who are in their
they
community.
refer them to you.
Exactly. And then we refer them over to the tech companies. So we're the in between of those two things. So we're the technology platform in between
So
meetups and
those
groups.
meetup know you exist.
Yeah, so we actually randomly were able to talk to one of the higher ups, I guess, at WeWork, who owns Meetup.
Oh yeah.
They were actually kind of really excited about what we're working on. So we're trying to see if we can get a partnership going there. That's kind of what we're working
I
towards.
didn't know that WeWork owns Meetup.
Yeah, they acquired them. I want to say it was like a year and some change ago.
Wow,
Yeah.
interesting. I thought was way ahead of WeWork because WeWork just came on the market.
Yeah.
But Meetup is like 20 years at least. No,
Yeah,
maybe
Meetup's been around for a
for a while.
bit. Yeah, and then I'm not sure exactly how long WeWork has been around, but yeah, WeWork acquired Meetup a
Oh, they
like a
had
year
more
ago.
money. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so now that you're part of this, I would say, network,
Mm-hmm.
you get to go to these meetups as well
Yes. Right.
and meet yourself some candidates.
Exactly.
Do you go there anonymously or you do show your true purpose
Yeah, I show up to a meetup probably once a day on average.
at WeWork?
Just in general.
In
So
general,
I'll just show up to a meetup. I'll just kind of see what's on the schedule for a given day, and then show up to a different thing that I
see
think
if
is
you can meet
interesting,
someone good.
and just kind of talk to people, get an idea of like what the organizers are looking for within their meetups to
Yeah,
like
network after work. You heard.
exactly.
Okay, but when you meet someone, hi, my name is
Steven.
Steven,
Hmm.
you don't tell them you're trying to get them into ScoutFor.
Um,
ScoutFor.
yeah, I think that it's interesting because a lot of times people show up to meetups because they
They are looking.
want to look for a job,
Right,
right?
right.
So you're showing up because you want to network with people who are showing up for a particular topic. Like let's say
Yeah,
it's JavaScript or a particular programming language.
yeah.
So you might show up and the group is going to talk about a particular subject matter
Mm-hmm,
within that topic,
mm-hmm.
but you're really just wanting to like change the conversation, talk to people and say, "Hey, are you hiring?"
Uh,
Right? And so that process for a lot of people is extremely uncomfortable
oh,
to like try to change that topic around. And so
what do you say
um,
then?
we basically just think that the way that should go about is that meetup organizers are able to assess people, know their strengths, know what they're looking for in terms of work, and so we think that those actual organizers of those communities should be able to better have a pulse on what the job applicants within their particular community are looking for,
Uh-huh.
and then just say Apple has a job open for a UX UI designer.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm an organizer of a UX UI meetup, I might know someone within my own community who says, "Hey, I'm looking for a job," and I could
You're
just
gonna
refer
meet
them.
him there, and you're gonna send him there.
Exactly. So we're actually depending on those organizers specifically to make those referrals, and
Oh,
then on the other side, they get paid by the tech companies for those referrals.
they do.
Yeah. So that's kind of the way the model works. Is that we think they should be compensated for that
Yeah, a
work.
lot of companies give a referral fee,
Exactly. So
so
they'll
that will go to you.
and then we send it to the organizers. So we are kind of doing a Uber model where
Oh,
we
you do send it to the organizer too? You
exactly
send a part of it.
exactly.
Okay.
So right now we're doing an 80-20 split where they get 80%, we get 20%.
Okay.
And so
So
we're gonna split
the
that.
organizer of the meetup,
Yes.
and you get only 20. That's unusual.
Yeah.
You should get 50-50.
I think that we're kind of looking at it right now where organizers of meetups in particular have been doing a lot of community organizing for free.
Oh.
Where there's like they do it as a thing after their real job.
Oh.
And so we're kind of thinking that there's a lot of value there that isn't necessarily being capitalized on, and that the person who should be in charge of like making those referrals really isn't us. It should be the organizers. We just want to be connected to the networks of those organizers.
Oh.
So incentivizing them to kind of self-organize in that way, to be able to say, I know someone who's talented I'm going to refer them to Google. I'm going to refer them to Apple. I'm going to refer them to Cisco. Like any of those companies, it makes sense. And so
Okay.
we're trying to incentivize that process happening.
Okay, so Scout4, you have a website, I suppose,
Yes.
scout4.com, where people
.io.
IO,
Yep.
and people can apply there or ask for an applicant.
So you can basically see what jobs are available
Open.
and what bonuses are available currently.
Uh-huh.
Um,
On the website.
yeah, and so we're in
But-
private beta right now. So we're basically piloting this with a couple companies and then a few different meetup groups that
or
are
they can just call
specific.
you on the phone.
They could do that or
They-
email us.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
either way.
It's on the site.
Yes.
Okay. Is there an 800 number? No.
No.
Not yet. Okay.
No 800 number.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's your 510 number.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So what is the stage of your company? You just started yesterday?
So we moved. We basically had this. We kind of had this idea of like a general concept of what we wanted to do.
Yeah.
And so we kind of been iterating on the process in Portland, Oregon, actually.
Ah.
And then
How did that happen? You had a friend there?
yeah, so I actually after pre-med and leaving, I left school to learn how to code. So I
Okay.
actually taught myself software development and then went to a code school.
Okay.
And then started working with a couple of different companies in Portland doing pilots and just trying to see like what the right thing was.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of stumbled upon this particular approach by trying to help a company actually hire a particular, like they just had no applicants because no one knew who they were. And so we ended up doing a meetup for them and trying to get developers to show up, and that went really well. And so by observing that process and being in it, we just kind of realized there's something here. And so we decided to move to San Francisco a month and a half ago to actually see if we can make some connections in the Bay Area. And
So you're not from the Bay Area?
I'm not, just moved here.
Oh,
Yeah.
not. And you have time to do both? Be a VP of sale and a co-founder of a company?
Yeah, it's hard. It's a lot of time to.
Because if you're VP of sales, you have a couple people there working for you?
Yeah, so VP of Sales is another startup, and so what happens there, I'm responsible for a lot of the evangelism of the product and for talking to people within the community
okay.
about what we're
Okay.
working on, things like that.
And the other
so.
one is for you.
And the other one's mine, yeah.
And which one is more fun, yours?
They're both fun to me. I mean, I feel like it's different in a lot of ways because one is your own project, it's your own
Okay.
baby, but
But the other one doesn't resemble yours.
no, they're drastically
Totally
different.
different.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's good. That's good. And
Exactly.
Who coded Scout4?
So I programmed a lot of it, but right now we're actually
Outsourcing.
no, we're actually doing a lot of the design work is actually my co-founder. She's just really great at doing the design work.
Really? Okay.
So-
a woman for change.
Yeah, so she's just really great. So just kind of
She
really
knows how to do it.
Yeah. So we just
Oh.
kind of pair together, and then that's how our website
So it's
comes
two
together.
founders.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
What's her name, if you don't mind?
Her name's Aramis.
Aramis. Okay.
Yes.
And you also met her in Portland.
Yep.
Oh, is she gonna come too?
So she is. We're kind of working on that process right now. So she's in Portland still, and then I'm in San Francisco.
Oh.
But we talk like every day.
Now for VP of Sales, where do you do it from? San Francisco.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you got a job, you came here, and you're developing your company.
Yes.
Long distance with your co-founder.
Mm-hmm.
I got the idea. Good. Okay.
Exactly. It's a good summation.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's a good guess. All right. So what's better in terms of Scout4 to recruit at Meetup or to recruit online? Or through
Yeah.
Facebook or LinkedIn? What's better?
It's a great question. I personally think
Yeah.
that sometimes technology focuses
good.
on doing the new stuff.
Okay.
But I think that a lot of the old ways of doing things actually have rationale behind that.
Because there's a feel for the person.
Right. So I think the reason that I go to a meetup at night isn't necessarily, I mean, I'm there to meet organizers and kind of get an idea of like what the meetup's about, things like that.
Yeah.
But primarily, I feel like I could email meetup organizers and just say, here's what we're working on.
Ah.
I think you get a very different feel from like being there in person and going up to someone and say, hey, I just, want to talk to you about this thing that we're working on. And so I think that starting out, the one thing that's helped us at least build a little bit of a following of organizers who care about what we're doing, as well as companies that care about what we're doing, is just showing up and being there and being present. in person. And so that's the reason why
It's a lot of work to
it's a lot
meet
of work.
each organizer.
Sure.
Yeah. And that must take all your evenings. No time for dating, or you date people as you go to the meetup.
I I seem to do okay. I don't know. I feel like it's
That's not what you're looking for
but
when you
that's
go.
not. Yeah.
Yeah. So some people, I go to network after work. They tell me, "Oh, I'm not here to network. I'm just looking to have a good time or meet someone."
Sure.
So that could happen too.
This is true.
Yeah. So but you is totally professional when you go there.
Yes. I think
Oh,
that it's interesting. I've heard this before because I think when you meet people, it's just a
they have
thing.
different
But
objectives.
yeah, but I think that for some reason, tech meetups in particular are a little bit more.
More tech.
They're more tech and like more lecture focused almost
Yeah. And
than other
more
meetups.
men, more men.
Exactly. So it's
Okay.
almost more of which is unfortunate. Like that's a problem we would like to fix. But I feel like that is, yeah, it's an interesting dynamic there between that and like other meetups that are like on Meetup.
But when you say you'd like to fix, isn't it true that women don't like to sit in front of a computer and code? I mean,
I would disagree with that. I mean,
what's the percentage of coders? Very little, no?
it's not. So I think that the breakdown is of women who are actually coders. I'm not sure what the actual percentage is right now, but it's not. It's not great. So I
It's
want to
not
say it's like
great.
let's say it's
I know.
24%.
Not even.
I'm gonna throw that. I mean, that might even be high, but let's just say it was 24%.
Yeah.
I don't think the reason why women are not coding is because traditionally people would say, well, it's because women are not as good at math. They're more like emotionally strong, or like they have more emotional intelligence, things like that.
Okay.
I would disagree with that. I think that there's a lot of studies to show that women are.
Good coders.
I mean, I think it's just a socialization issue where you sometimes get into like high school or you're in college, and the things that people want you to focus on are not necessarily science and math and things like that.
It's
People tend to try to push you into like other areas.
okay.
And I don't think when men are programming or like interested in science and
It's
math, people
accepted.
accept it and they enforce that that's the behavior you should be going with.
All right.
So I think it depends on who's there, but I think it's shifting, which is a good thing.
Yeah, because men are supposed to be the breadwinner for the
Sure.
kids. So they have to have an engineering job or something.
Exactly.
How are you going to feed two kids if you
Exactly.
have no job,
And I think that it makes a lot of sense that,
More
I
men go into it, yeah.
I don't think it makes sense that more men. I think it makes it makes sense the way it is currently based off the way that people have kind of structured the conversation. But I think the conversation is changing.
Okay.
And so I think more women, more people of color in the programming space
Are
in
getting
particular.
into it.
And I think that it's also I think that tech is realizing that different perspectives from different backgrounds is valuable, because then you can have you solve problems in a very different way than if everyone is always on the same page, because there's no, if someone believes exactly what you believe, there's no conversation that needs to happen. You just say, this is the way we're going to go do something.
Oh.
But if you're able to say, I have this belief, someone else says, you know what, I don't agree with that based off my experience, I want to have a conversation about this, and you have an interaction there, both people then come to a situation where you can say, okay, great, so what's the best solution for my experience and your experience to come to some sort of resolution about how we go forward. And I think that those transactions are that transaction cost is worth something. And I think that happens within even just me and my own co-founder. Her background is something very different than my background, and that allows us to have conversations that then leads to us deciding how to move forward.
Okay, but basically an employer, the old ways is the employer look at a female applicant and they say, oh, in 2 years she's going to leave, she's going to have a couple babies.
Exactly.
And they don't say it because it's illegal.
Sure.
But it's in the back of their mind.
Exactly.
Say, is it worth our time to train that person?
Sure. It's
Right.
still a problem. I think
It's
that is still a thing.
Yeah, it does happen in reality, though.
Sure.
Yeah. So do you don't mind sending these kind of applicants, even if there's that maybe unspoken objection?
Yeah, I feel as if that's a great question. I feel like different life paths and how people decide they want, I think the responsibility, which is maybe a different topic, but the responsibility of raising kids falls, if I decided that I was going to be a doctor,
you're going to have your wife take
exactly.
care of
No one cares what you exactly. They just no one cares that that's what you're doing. They're just well, you have kids. Someone's at home taking care of
then
that.
it should be your wife taking care of
Right.
it.
And so I feel for women, it's a lot more complicated, mostly because I think people go, well, like, if you want to be a female and you're going to be a doctor, you're going to be a lawyer, you're going to be any of those professions, like,
You're going to be absent.
how exactly? So who's taking care of your kids? Because, like,
Yeah.
I think that that's an interesting question, but I do think that, I don't know I feel like that's a socialization thing as well. I think maybe the responsibility should be a little bit more even, where, like, both, you're
Participate.
both participating, where it's not like you're just earning, your only responsibility is to earn as a male, and your
Yeah.
only responsibility is to, like, no
Right.
matter what you do as a woman, your only responsibility that matters is, like, how you're taking care of your kids. I think
Right.
that load should be balanced in a way that is effective, that makes sense. And so I don't think you can necessarily say what that is for each person, but I think that companies then deciding that women can't be effective employees because they have children is unreasonable.
Oh, okay.
Especially because I think, especially in technology, a lot of things are happening where, like, you can work remotely and you can, like, program from anywhere. Like, I think that there's ways to figure out how to make that happen.
Okay. Things are changing.
And things are changing, and I think that's good.
Okay.
At least conversations are happening about it.
And I heard that people are more than one jobs now. I mean,
Yes.
they do one job at home.
Sure.
And then they do another job here.
Exactly.
And then they do their own little startup.
Exactly.
And see which one brings the most money.
Sure.
Huh?
And maybe even the most fulfillment. I mean, I think that you could even, I think that's the other thing, is, like, the way that the economy is even happening in general. It might just be that you decide you're going to have children, but then you're able to do, like, different contracts for different companies, things
Okay.
like that, start your own company, whatever.
And work at your own pace.
Exactly. And so I feel like that should not be an excuse. Like, that's not, like, an excuse for companies not to hire women or people, like women in particular. But
Give
I feel
them
like,
flex time.
yeah, I feel like it just means that you have to be, I think this conversation about being inclusive and, like, how you actually do that can't just be good for, like, work life can't just be good for men, and, like, everyone has to fit into that. I think you have to figure out ways to, like,
Include everybody.
include everyone, because people are extremely valuable, and if this person that is working here is going to be they're a great person to work for and I work with, and they have, like, great insights into, like, how they're doing their job. Arguably, you want to make sure that you're going to keep as many of those people as possible.
Okay.
So that would be my feeling
So
about
did you
that.
experience yet an employer call you for that purpose of inclusiveness, or not yet?
So this is actually really interesting. I think that because of the way that we're approaching the problem, really what we're saying is, on two levels, there's this one thing that we're solving, which is that companies are having a hard time filling tech positions to begin with.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter, like, even no matter what demographic you're looking at, like, there's a lot of software engineering roles that are currently open, and not a lot of people to help fill those roles. Wow. So they're trying to figure out, like, how to do that, and that problem's not going to get any.
They bring them from Canada.
Exactly. It's like, so you're gonna have to start bringing people. Like, how do you solve for that problem? There's a lot of questions about that into, like, the actual software development part of tech in particular. And so I think the approach that we have, where rather than relying on, let's say, a recruiter to go to a meetup who doesn't necessarily know the community itself, they're just there as a participant, and they go and say, hey, we can help you find a software development job if you're looking. Like, that doesn't necessarily, that's not as effective as just saying there's a ton of groups that really would be effective for you to reach out to. You're not going to be able to send recruiters to all those groups.
So they use you.
Exactly.
I mean, they ask for your
exactly.
services. So you're one of their left arm or right arm.
Exactly.
Okay, so you're gonna help them.
And that is basically you're basically decentralizing recruiting. So you're basically just making it possible for people to crowdsource candidates from different places, which is different than the actual diversity issue that we're focused on. And so the diversity issue in particular, I think that we're just looking at how you incentivize people who really care about diversity and inclusion within technology, because I think there's a lot of people who do care about that, and that's what the way they want to see the future happen, is that there's more voices within tech that are coming from different backgrounds. I think you enable those people to have communities, run communities, and actually get compensated for their work, so they feel like that is of value. And they're not just doing it after work, like maybe they're a diversity and inclusion specialist at, like, a company, and then they're just doing their meetup as a labor of love. I think that that's not effective a lot of times. So I think that we want to make sure that those people in particular are able to get compensated for the work they're doing, so that they're incentivized to keep those groups going. Because I think that it's a big deal for tech as a whole to have those people within the ecosystem who are caring about diversity, caring about inclusion, and caring about getting more people from different backgrounds into tech. And so that's kind of like our focus overall.
Oh, okay, okay. But there must be also applicants for to fill those roles.
Exactly.
Yeah. So because a lot of companies, the big ones like Yelp and Salesforce,
Yep.
they do have someone in charge just of diversity.
Exactly.
There. So you're the person you're gonna talk to, right?
Sure.
So you want to work with big companies then, since that's what they're looking for.
Exactly.
Oh, okay. So they open your arm wide open.
Yeah.
Because that's their objective.
Exactly. And so it's
so it facilitates your life because they do have some goals to
exactly
reach. I mean, some quotas to meet.
Exactly.
Okay.
And
but
so,
on the other hand, you try to find them good applicants.
Exactly.
Yeah. So they got to be qualified.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so that's the balance there, is like you want people referring people who are qualified from the meetup side of things, and you want them to be
open.
Effectively going to the companies who are open about like who, like how to find those candidates essentially, and looking at different places.
So instead of working just for one corporation, you're going to work for several.
Exactly.
Okay, and that's the business model for ScoutFor.
Yes.
Okay, I got it.
Yep.
I think you pretty much presented your company, but the company can go to ScoutFor and apply?
So yes, we are currently in a private beta. So we have like a small group of companies we're working with currently, then a small group of meetups that we're working with as well. So
and then you're gonna open another area for other corporations to
exactly.
apply?
So then we're basically at least working out that model right now, and then working through the process of that to like expand
how old is your startup?
So we're now, I guess on this phase, we're 2 months in.
Oh, very new.
Yeah, so
very new. So maybe in a year from now it's gonna boom.
Exactly. So I mean, we'll see. I think that we're onto something.
You're gonna go first with one city and then go more cities.
So yeah, I mean, I think our approach is basically that start in San Francisco. It's the tech hub of the world. So start here. And there's a lot of talent here that's moving to Portland, which is actually where I came from, right?
Then you're
so
to Portland.
Exactly. So then we're basically finding we don't care where the job location is.
Yeah.
We're basically focused on the meetup organizers within San Francisco currently. And so then you're able to source candidates who are saying that, like, you know what, I want to work. I don't care where I work necessarily, as long as it's for the right company and it's the place I want to live. And so there's no reason that you shouldn't be, as a Portland company, saying we're going to make our jobs available to people who are in San Francisco. And so that
you can outsource them to another city.
Exactly. And so that's basically where we come in, is that we are just connecting each of those different groups together, where people can go, oh, here's a job that I think is really interesting.
It's in Detroit. Would you like to go?
Exactly. And people can consider whether or not that makes sense for them or not. But I think that, there's the whole cost of living thing in San Francisco, and people deciding, I want to have kids and a family, and maybe I can't do that here.
Cheaper state?
Sure.
Less expensive state?
Exactly.
Okay, so that's also. But the fact that you are VP of sales helps you in selling your company.
Yes.
You know who to call?
Yeah. I think it's interesting. I also, before I was in tech, I was actually in jewelry sales.
Yeah.
And I feel like I learned a lot about sales in jewelry.
Yeah. So you're using all these skills for your own company.
Exactly.
And that helps, right?
Exactly.
Oh, good. So stay with the VP of sales.
Exactly.
So you get more contacts. And keep working on your startup.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you presenting your idea on What's Your Idea.
Thank you.
And I think it's a good idea, not because I say that to everybody, because my show is new too, What's Your Idea, but because I have observed out there how difficult it is for people, no matter what their race or color or gender is, to even get a job.
Exactly.
It's like they think people have a lot of time to lose.
It's true.
Or waste just because they are unemployed.
Exactly.
So that's unfair. We need to change that.
I would agree. And I think that if you are just...
we need to cut the red tape.
Yeah.
It's just painful.
I would agree.
Okay. So let's hope your company, ScoutFor, will contribute to easing that problem.
We're working
on it.
Thank you
so much
for
for being here. You've been a great guest. Thank you.
Thank you.